Well, hello, welcome back to the Bionicle Inspiration series. Today we have an episode all about Titans, which I know you guys love Titan episodes. These are some of your favorites. And I had a few Titans in the old bank, so I figured, hey, let's talk about some of them today. Let's talk Titans. What do I mean by Titans? Well, Brickopedia itself describes Titans as they were the largest sets from Bionicle. What a great definition, very in-depth, very informative, but it got the job done. So yeah, your larger Bionicle sets, your Maxilosses, your Makutas, your Rudakas, your Sidoraks, your Toamatanuis, whatever, some of the larger Bionicle sets. Typically by Titan, it can mainly just refer to just big old MOC, but it can also just refer to just a sort of larger-than-life MOC, I guess, at the same time, like larger in spirit, because there were some Titan sets where it's like, yeah, it's bigger because it has more pieces, it's a larger set, but it's inherently like a smaller build, it's not towering in size or whatever. So it varies, but for the most part, we're going to be talking about larger MOCs today, so let's dive in. The first MOC we have today is by Andrew Steele, and this is called Kraatokk Corrupted. Now, this is a pretty badass looking MOC. I think it's absolutely fantastic. First off, there's a whole bunch of different kind of like furry kind of cloth elements on this. Now, those aren't official Lego pieces, but they look really, really cool. There's this beautiful sort of like feral sort of animalistic look to this creature. It looks fresh out of some sort of horror movie or, TV series or whatever. It's awesome. And I think the inclusion of those non-Lego furry element piece things is a brilliant addition. There's something about it that looks a little bit more sort of like ragged and rough and feral in nature. And I think that really is reflected across the whole MOC. And just the inclusion of that, I think, goes a long way. Plus, it kind of looks like, specifically like on the back and stuff, it's kind of covering up a lot of details there. So, yeah, maybe it's also a little bit smart to put that on the back just to kind of cover up some bits that you don't really have the pieces, the time, or the effort, or the whatever to, cover it up and stuff. So, it's always good to cheat with a bit of cloth, as I've said many a time on this show. But, yeah, I think the general kind of, like, texture and look of that cloth really does wonders for this MOC. I love it. And sort of similar elements of that kind of, like, feral, kind of rugged, wild look is reflected very much so on the head, but it's kind of reflected everywhere else on the MOC as well. The teeth on this MOC and sort of the overall shape of the mouth and the nose and everything, there's this weird sort of jutting shape to it almost. Like the mouth itself is bending in a sort of slightly unnatural way, also kind of natural, I guess, for the rough shape of that sort of skull. But the teeth, they're different pieces. There's some of the sort of smaller tooth pieces, I believe some of the larger ones too. Yeah, here and there. And also some of the unicorn horns that came on certain, like, castle horses. It was sort of like a more kind of like battle armor that you put over the top, but it gave them like a unicorn horn. But, yeah, those pieces have been used in other things as well. But, like, just the inclusion of all those different shapes and sizes of teeth, the fact that some of them are at different angles and things, again, it looks so, like, feral and horrific and awesome. So I love that. It's a really great way of communicating this more rabid look to this creature here. So by all means, I think if you are trying to emulate that in one of your own MOCs, do that. Put claws and different body parts and things at different angles and have them at different shapes and sizes, make things a little bit more irregular and sort of unnatural in that sense. And I think you're really going to get a solid result as we see here. So yeah, man, it's cool. It's kind of also the same on the rib cage of this MOC as well. They're kind of, there's this weird like curvature to them. There's an irregular sort of way that all of them are arranged, and I don't know, there's something almost sort of like mystical about it. It looks like it's being bent by like whatever that sort of core is in the middle of its torso there. There's something about it that doesn't look right. Maybe like those ribs have been like ripped apart almost. I don't know. It's cool. So yeah, a lot of nice stuff on this one. I also quite enjoy the base, the sort of little stand that this MOC is standing on. It's really nice. There's this, it kind of looks like a sort of frozen over like kind of corpse or like skeleton at the bottom there. And overall, there's like a really sort of like jagged look to the snow on the base there. And I think, again, that reflects some of the other elements that we've already spoken about of this MOC. And so, I don't know, it's lovely seeing that just all across this MOC, but in very different ways too. Like the texture of the fur is still different to the sort of irregular like shaping of the teeth. And the weird looking ribcage and the jagged looking snow, it's all very different, but all very similar at the same time. So it's nice to see all those different things working in unison. And it's all the same kind of like principle or concept, but it's all little subtle stuff, and it goes a different way, and I don't know, it all ties together nicely. It puts it in a nice little bow on a little Christmas present here, you know? It's really, really stunning. I also like the hand design on this MOC. There's just a lot of articulation to it. Obviously, because it's a Titan, it's a bit of a... You get kind of more space to play with. You couldn't really do this sort of elaborate design on a more typical, you know, Toa size build or whatever. But it's really cool. Using some of those, as Bricklink calls them, bar holder with handle. Using some of those pieces there in conjunction with some other kind of like clip elements and different things here to create a really, really articulated hand design here. I think it's fantastic. And there's even more additional articulation on sort of the base of the fingers there using different mixel joint elements as well. And we can see that being transitioned into the arm as well. So really cool, using a few different system pieces and things there to achieve some fantastic looking articulation and a beautiful looking more kind of like skeletal finger and arm design there. It's very nice. Not arm, hand. I always confuse like hands, arms, limbs, all sorts of things, man. It's weird. You'd think I'd learn at this point, but I just don't. I'll get there one day, I promise. It's only when I record Biss too. Like, it's not in real life where I'll just be like, nice foot, and they'll be like, that's my hand. You know, anyway, if we go back to the stand on this MOC here, there is also a, like, actual stand holding it up. Now, obviously, this is a quite impressively large MOC, and nothing wrong with that, that's awesome, but, like, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to have these things hold themselves up, and there's a good amount of, like, pistons and other sort of, more sort of, like, support structural elements on this MOC, which looks like it'd be able to support a good amount of its weight, but I could imagine that maybe it's just a little bit more difficult to, you know, put it on a shelf, or just occasionally it slumps over or whatever, or, again, I don't know how this MOC is built, maybe the head's really sort of top-heavy or whatever, but regardless, just having a nice stand behind it there just to help support it, nothing wrong with that, and also, if you photograph it in a manner like this, where you just don't really see the stand, because, I don't know, it kind of is just covered by the MOC itself, or it just kind of gets lost in the background, whatever, it works really, really nicely. So, I think that's a nice addition. It's a relatively sort of, like, simple and sort of easy to ignore stand as well. So, hey, never feel shame if you have to put a little stand there to support your MOC, especially when it's this awesome, and especially when it's this big as well. Sometimes you need a bit of support, you know? It's important. One last little thing. The leg design, specifically kind of the lower leg design, there's kind of this weird, like, kind of fur texture, or maybe it's sort of like a jagged bone sort of look. I don't really know, but it's cool using some of those Star Wars, like, shin armor pieces from some of the Ultra Build sets. It's nice. It's really, really nice. I don't know, there's just something, again, that sort of jagged look to it that really fits with the rest of this MOC, and it's just a nice looking design, so it's pretty cool. And you know what, this is a really, really nice looking MOC. Let's move on to the next one. This next MOC is called Amagra, and this is built by Eclipse Caller. Awesome, awesome person, by the way. Anyway, this is an incredibly terrifying looking MOC, and I like that. This is kind of like the sub-theme of this episode is Titans, but specifically scary Titans, and not the Attack on Titan Titans either. Anyway, terrifying because look at all those big, scary, googly eyes all over this thing. It's awesome. They're on the tongue, they're on the back, they're all the places that they should not be. And I think that's a great thing to, like, focus on if you're building really, like, horror-inspired stuff, is to make things look as unhuman-like as possible. Put eyes on the back, on the feet, on the wherever. Give them multiple legs. Give them massive teeth. Give them things that humans just don't have, and it'll instantly make it a little bit more scary and sinister. So these eye pieces, they're simply just your typical everyday ball joint in white, but this unique printing that they have, this comes from a, I think more recent brickhead. I want to say it came out this year. This brickhead is, I didn't know this was the name of the dude, but it's kind of fun. He's called Lion Dance Guy. I like that they don't name him. You know, it could be like, this is Dave. This is Dave the Lion Dancer. It's like, nah, this is Lion Dancer Guy. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, it's a nice little brickhead, but it does, of course, have those printed eyeball joints, which work very nicely here for the sort of Chinese New Year dragon suit that this dude is wearing. And yeah, they've been terrifyingly but beautifully used here on this MOC. And so I believe Eclipse Caller, I swear I remember seeing it. They posted it on their Instagram story, and I think it was a Bricklink order. They just got a bunch of those eyes. And it's honestly the little, like, cherry on top on this MOC. I think it's fantastic. I've banged on about them enough now, but gosh, it does complete this MOC and really, really makes it pop. It's cool. So great addition there, and a really nice part use of that piece as well. Great to see it used in such a large quantity here. I also like the leg design of this MOC. Very simple, just your Hero Factory bone pieces, the hand socket piece, and those lovely, very large, tail claw pieces, whatever you want to refer to them as. They're awesome. And some of the poses that this thing's in, where like sometimes the legs are like really below or sort of to the side or whatever. There's this, again, very sort of like irregular shape to some of them bending in weird ways, all sorts of things. It's just terrifying looking. It's like a big old tarantula on your table or something. It's nah, shouldn't be happening, which I love. It's perfectly fitting for this sort of like almost like Lovecraftian, terrifying monster. It's awesome. I love the tooth design on this as well, inverting those larger spine pieces that came on like Nocturn and Spinax and all sorts of different sets there. It's really, really nice. It's really, really nice. So it's a lovely looking tooth design, and it's also an interesting effect how, obviously that spine piece, the teeth sort of jut out a fair bit, and so you need to sort of shove those into the back of the head. But when you kind of look inside the mouth, it's cool to see how the teeth sort of go quite far back as well. So really a quite nice way of using that piece and kind of using it to your advantage too, because it works in a few different ways there on the inside and the outside of the mouth. It's nice. I also quite enjoy the back design, not just because of the eyes, but also the inclusion of all of those like foot kind of claw pieces there, because it looks like spikes, and it's sort of like slightly different spikes because they kind of have that sort of slight, not quite a curve, but that sort of angle to them. And they also kind of look like hands. So it almost looks like this is some sort of creature that's been like, I don't know, sewn together with different like body parts from other creatures and stuff. It's weird. And it kind of almost looks like these hands are like kind of clawing the body and like holding it together or something like that. I don't know. There's something freaky about it. It's cool. So, yeah, terrifying MOC, but just an awesome MOC. And that part spam of the eyes, chef's kiss, cherry on top. It's lovely. Let's move over to the next MOC now. This one here is by Aiden.Builds, and this is called Creeps from the Deep Nocturn. So, another horrific, terrifying looking MOC here, and a really nice one. So obviously Nocturn was a fantastic looking Bionicle set back in the day, and it's nice to see a very, very different take on him. I like the fact that kind of the way the colors have been blocked on this, how it's all this sort of like flowing tentacle shadow effect. It's all sort of underneath the glow-in-the-dark blue and the lime. So it almost kind of looks like this weird tentacle monster thing is like taken Nocturn's body, or like the shell of Nocturn almost, if he's sort of more like a crustacean, and he's kind of like wearing it like some sort of like marionette or something. And, there's little bits where these tentacles sort of peek out of the sides or whatever, but for the most part, yeah, it's just this sort of like corpse that it's taken over. Again, a terrifying concept, but a really, really unique one, and a great way of sort of interpreting this character. That may not be the original intention here from the original builder, but yeah, it's kind of what I see, and I think it's a really cool idea, so I very much enjoy that. I love the way that he's sort of slightly revamped the face on Nocturn here. The idea of changing up the eyes so that they are the Lego cherry piece. So it looks like he has sort of two different eyes on both of those eye sockets there. Really, really cool. And I also quite enjoy the sort of like shell on his back here. The fact that he's taken all of those different pieces, which are also being used on those front arms there, and sort of just layering them on their side like that. There's something very sort of, shell-like and aquatic with the way that looks. And then this sort of beautiful spine along the edge there that almost kind of looks like waves, but also kind of just looks like the spikes on the back of a creature that lives under the water. I don't know, there's something about it that's very fitting for this sort of underwater theme of the Baraki and all of that. So yeah, it's cool. It's really, really nice. So yeah, I think just in general the sort of shaping and overall look of that is gorgeous, and kind of just everything about this is really, really nice. And it's sinister, it's scary, but it's really cool. It's also nice to note the amount of these like tentacle claw pieces that are being used here. Whether that's the ones that are, the specific black tentacles that are coming out of the kind of arms and the legs, or whether it's the ones that are in lime that are used as the fingers, or if it's the ones that are that glow-in-the-dark color that are being used sort of on the waist, I suppose. There's a lot of different uses for those pieces, and honestly, if you don't have some, by all means, go have a look for them on Bricklink, because, man, they're such a helpful part. So by all means, grab some. See all the infinite uses of them. Very, very helpful. Hey guys, if you're keen to grab some LEGO parts, sets, and custom MOCs for some pretty decent prices, head over to bionicleforlife.co.uk. The store has some great deals and some custom MOCs that you can purchase, and they're a great way to feel like you're buying a classic Bionicle set once again. You can also get some cool posters, comics, instructions, and even attend a workshop or two to help you grow as a builder. So either follow Bionicle for Life on Instagram, head over to his Patreon, or just head over to bionicleforlife.co.uk and grab some Bionicle deals today. On to the next MOC now. This is by Max Howell, and this is called Niazesk. I love the color scheme on this. You know, we're kind of going for this slightly creepier Titan episode here, and I don't know, this is a little bit less of the sort of horror genre and just a sort of bad-looking dude. But he is still a sort of, you know, creepy, scary-looking bug man. So, you know, but because of that, I think it's a really interesting choice to give him this sort of dark blue and yellow color scheme thrown in with a bit of sort of black and grey and stuff. I don't know, there's something that's actually quite vibrant about it, but it works surprisingly well. And I think the fact that he's picked some sort of the darker colors of yellow and the darker blue as well, you know, you can afford to have those lighter colors, but it still feels a little bit sort of darker. You know, to me, it kind of looks like a wasp or something to a degree, where it is sort of brighter colors, but, you know, a wasp can still be nasty business and hurt you and all that. So, yeah, it's cool. But, you know, no, seriously, I think this is a fantastic looking MOC, and it's just a surprise to see such a beautiful, bright color scheme on what is a more sort of sinister looking MOC, and I really like that. So I like these kind of stretching the limits of what those colors normally sort of represent, but it works really well. Really, really well. I love the head design as well, using a whole bunch of those Exoforce robot arm pieces, which are also being used on the fingers here as well, but also combining it with a bunch of those slightly larger claw pieces there. And I love the inclusion of having two of them be orange just to signify the eyes as well. I think just the inclusion of so many of those in that concentrated area there really works for a fantastic looking face design. And then the fact that he has some of those larger tail pieces, claw pieces, whatever you want to refer to them as sort of like tusks or like stingers of sorts. So again, another fantastic use for that piece. Definitely worth the buy if you're looking for some pieces to invest in to use in your mocking. But yeah, lovely looking face design. And also just some cool lower arm designs as well. The inclusion of that blue or the dark blue skull spider piece being used there. It's really nice to see that sort of partnered with a typical Hero Factory shell piece. Just the two of them together like that. Really nice armor shaping. Really, really nice. So, yeah, man, I think that's a fantastic looking lower arm design, and maybe something you could do yourself if you're looking for a good arm design. That's definitely a good one there. I like the inclusion of the stickered elements on the lower legs as well. He's got fans there, as Gringat said in the description, or in the comments, excuse me, on Flickr. He said he's got knee fans, however you want to refer to it as. So I suppose he uses his knees to propel himself forward somehow. But it's nice, it's cool. I always like seeing little stickered elements like that, whether it's little subtle stuff like this or something that actually works quite well. I don't know, it's a surprising addition, but I think it actually complements the MOC in a really nice way. The tail design's also pretty cool with the little stinger that's on his fornax. It's easy to say butt, his bug butt. But also combined with this fantastic edited background here by Mr. Buttloaf-Builds himself. Awesome to see. So yeah, I think he has this brilliant sort of like silhouette, this very like dynamic pose as well. I know there's a lot of character to this guy, so he's cool. Really, really well built, really well designed, and a really nice color scheme. Always love a good color scheme. On to the final MOC now. This is by Dees, and you can head over to Flickr and see his actual name because I don't know how to pronounce that, but Dees is what I'm going to refer to it as. His name is in another language, so I'm not going to butcher that, I promise you. And this is called Angel of Regression. Now, this is fantastic, and this is just kind of like, just so striking to see when you first lay eyes on this. This is just a very... you know, if this was to be at like a LEGO convention or a show of some sort, this is the one that takes the prize home. This is the showstopper, you know. This is the one that that's why I saved it to the end. It's a sight to behold. The wings on this are phenomenal, absolutely awesome. Using a whole bunch of those wing pieces from some of the old Chima Legends of Chima LEGO sets, and they appear to be kind of layered onto flex tube, using some of the robot claw pieces that came on like the Exoforce minifigures, but you know, they also came on like the, you know, some of the like Doc Ock sets, more some of the older Doc Ock figures. I said sets, I meant minifigures. You know what I mean. You're seeing it on your screen, you understand. But yeah, it's complex, it's unique, and certainly a lot of part spamming there, but it really does get the point across. It looks exquisite. Some of the other stuff that looks exquisite on this mock is the fantastic like headdress that this character is wearing here, the lovely necklace that it has, and even this sort of like waistcoat that's using that great cloth piece from the Ray Ultra Build set there. Love some of those ornate details like that. I think that's actually what really does elevate the mock a fair bit, and it's certainly something you could try out yourself on some of your own mocks, is, you know, put sort of bits of like kind of jewelry or accessories on there, or see if you can give them a more sort of ornate crown of sorts. You know, you got your masks on your Bionicles, but can you add stuff on top of the mask? You know, headdresses, crowns, all sorts of cool stuff. I don't know, give it a shot, see what you can do. A tiara, who knows? But yeah, I think it's perfect. It perfectly complements this mock here, and it just looks really pretty. It's got flowers in it. It's very nice. Very, very nice. The stand on this mock is also really cool. There's a fair bit of really nice like detail to it as well. Kind of a bit of storytelling almost as well. Like it looks like there's some sort of grave or sort of fallen corpse or skeleton or whatever, and I don't know, this is an angel of sorts, I don't know, I can't really piece the story together, but I feel like there is one there. There's a clock, all sorts of things, so I know this is a make your own story kind of thing with this. I can't fully tell what it is, but it looks cool. And I sort of spoke about stands at the start of the episode. I love the idea of really going ham with it, actually building a bit of like landscape, it's giant tree, all sorts of craziness, and then using that to actually sort of hold up and support the mock. So in this case, it looks like it's flying, but really detailing out the stand like this, I think, is such a lovely way to actually make the mock look even more sort of grandiose, or just to really make it pop and shine in this sense. Because yeah, it perfectly complements it. So I don't know if you're a little bit more savvy with your system, or I don't know, maybe you want to try your hand at a more sort of Bionicle focused landscape using more sort of Bionicle pieces rather than the sort of system focus that this mock has. Give it a go, because I think if you can do it similar to how this mock has done it, to actually really elevate it and not only just like tell a story, but just make it look more grandiose and give it the sense that it's flying and stuff like that. And yeah, man, you can do a lot of impressive things. So that's, yeah, I love that. I also quite enjoy the weapon on this mock as well. It's using some unique like bits of flex tube, sort of around like where it's kind of being grasped by the hand there, and also some of the flex tubing around sort of the top where there's like that sort of blue glowy bit and stuff like that. How it kind of looks a little bit like I don't know, it's just got this beautiful curve to it, and it has this more unique shape, kind of like a sun almost. I know it kind of looks like how some people draw the sun, where it's a circle, the lines coming out of it like rays and stuff like that. I know it kind of looks like that, and it sort of seems slightly fitting for like an angel of sorts. So I don't know, it's just a really, really nice looking weapon there, and yeah, just some nice looking designs. So love your work. And nice work to everybody in this Titan-themed episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. If you enjoyed this episode, you can always take a look at the description below and see the links to the mocks that you saw in today's episode, and you can check out some of the other things that these builders have done. You can see the other amazing work that they have, and by all means, leave a comment on their stuff, leave a like on their stuff, and let them know your thoughts, because I'm sure they'd love to hear it. And I couldn't do these episodes without them. You may as well give them a bit of love in return. Additionally, if you look in the description, there's links to my own social media, so you can see some of the stuff that I've got going on over there. And while you're in the description below, there is the submission email, and it's also on your screen right now. So if you want to submit some of your own mocks to the show, send me an email through that email, and I'll add your mock to the list, and one day it'll be featured on the show. But I got a lot of submissions to work through, so your patience is always key. Thank you, thank you. All right, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, 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 bye.